Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this interesting, webinar. So, title of my lecture I have chosen is CTS, RTS, FTS, Achieving Excellence in Research and Innovation with NEP in Higher Educational Institutions. So, what is CTS, RTS, and FTS? Well, you know this Olympic movement. It is faster, higher, and stronger. Can we do that in academic institutions, and how to do that? No matter which organization you serve, which department you serve, you have a role to play, and you must understand that role and ultimately and discharge your duties. Somebody was asking a question a few minutes ago, how to motivate colleagues. Actually, motivation comes from within. You may have some goal, you may have some ideal, or you may have some hero, but that should not, stop you from getting motivated. Okay. So I won't go into the details of the NEP. So NEP happened at a time when the country is galloping. In fact, our economy is growing at a very fast rate. We are third largest economy now. And if we have to beat China and in future, perhaps United States, we need a lot of input from academic institutions. And I'm going to give you some of these glimpses. And so the new trinity which we have, it is our new Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, is change, challenge, and opportunity. Couple of years ago, we did not envisage what was in store for us. And that is why we are talking by this medium. Nobody imagined vaccination on a massive scale. It has happened. Constantly on our minds is the fear of the unknown and the uncertain future in every activity. And that is all technology-driven problems. So how that is happening? So the change, challenge, and opportunity is the new trinity of the world. And education should be at the forefront to transform society. Remember, only education can transform our society, from the current state. So really speaking, there are a number of questions which you need to answer. How do you achieve institutional excellence in the digitally connected and instantly accessible world? Who are the stakeholders in pursuit of excellence? And how do you sustain that excellence? In other words, you have to redefine your vision and mission, and everybody among you has to participate in that. So remember, we always compare ourselves because NAC is one of the parameters by which the universities are compared and we grade them. So if you look at the history of world-class universities, what is their role and how they have impacted the society at large? First of all, universities are harbingers of creation of new knowledge. Okay, so it is not just the routine one, but it has to be a new knowledge, and that has to be at the, cutting edge. Sometimes that knowledge could be incremental, sometimes it could be disruptive. And universities are supposed to be student-centric, job-oriented and entrepreneurship focused. Are we doing that? We should ask these questions since we are professors. And the dissemination of new knowledge to all stakeholders, particularly the unbelieving student community. How do you do that? What methods by which you do it? I normally say that the teachers are like actors. The only difference is that the actors talk about the dialogues which are already marked by them, crammed to their memory. Teacher has to be actor in his own sense, use his own language and create a new dialogue. So in all university system, our educational system, innovation should guide the academic institution. However, it doesn't stop there. Societal development must be at the core. And so there are many issues in this, and there are traditions and public perceptions, that win the half the battle. And that is what we have seen in the so-called higher education ranking. So some of the issues which I'm going to talk about is governance, leadership, and management. These are wheels within wheels. Who is governing the institutions? Who are at the top? how is the leader of that institution or the university? Does he or she command respect among fellow colleagues and the students, and for that matter, the alumni? So that is very, very important. And what are the barriers of academic leadership? And unfortunately, recently we have read in newspapers that the government wants to intervene in everywhere. Actually, government has no business. They should leave it to the academic institutions to grow. However, government always think that they can guide them, and that is the big problem. So what are the barriers to effective academic leadership? The lack of meritocracy. So anybody who is appointed at the top position, he is weighed, analyzed under microscope whether he has any positive or negative point. And that happens because you become a public figure. Always scrutinized. And many times there is a management instability. The management, there are many changes, there are political interference and whatnot. That is what happens. And the bureaucracy also plays its own role. And many times it is centralized. The vice chancellor may not have any role, or the director may not have any role, or the head of the department may not have any role. So these are problems, and many times psychophancy rules, and that we see in day-to-day life. So why rank and have promotion? We are talking about NEP, and you have organized this workshop or webinar on the related to NEP. We have NBA, we have NRF, we have area, the ATL ranking of institutions. Then we have institution of eminence. Then we have the graded autonomy. So ranking is here to stay like other. Many times some of the vice chancellors foolishly say that, oh, we are very old university, we should not be ranked. And that is an outrageous statement. You should be ranked. Otherwise, how will you know that where you stand in comparison, and how do you improve yourself? Okay. So another issue is the brand. Sometimes the brands are there. Like if you say IIT, we already elevate that brand to a higher level, whether it was established yesterday or today, or maybe 50 years ago. So brands are not created overnight. And so the brand name and perception can be misleading. And many times the old brand makers do not like the new kids on the horizon using their name. So the new IITs and the old IITs, you will always find that the faculty from new IITs go to the old IITs because they think they are not as good. So that is the issue with this branding. So perception is being in the eyes of public for doing something good, also bad. Many times you find the good things are never highlighted or do not make to the front page, but bad things make to the front page. So it is not necessarily related to, excellence is not necessarily related to it is being in the eyes of the media, okay? So it is a bad idea for India. For example, in the Times Higher Education, 40% marks are given to perception. So there was a question asked some time back, the water management department of Harvard University, please rate it. And everybody rated it as number 1. Believe me, there is no water management department there because Harvard is a very big university. So public perception, so Cambridge, Oxford, Harvard, MIT, UC Berkeley, or for that matter, Bombay, Madras, Calcutta, and all these old universities, you will always like to find out where is your university, okay, or where is your department. So all these ranking, and then within your department, where is your standing? Okay, all these things are, that means everybody, it is a sum total of perception, right? So this is what happens. So the ranking parameters also have a variable weightage. It's like the faculty and its diversity. State universities are, highly parochial. They would not like to hire somebody from a neighboring state also. They would like to say, okay, we should have people only from our area or from our state, which is against, the very idea of university. Then the students and their diversity, the quality of faculty and the students. If the good faculty is there, good students will join, not otherwise. And also if there are good students, good faculty will join. Then the spread and diversity of alumni, access to high-end facilities, and obviously the research output, the patents and publications. And on the top of it, we must look at the quality of support staff. If you have highly politicized support staff, okay, who do not want you to work, then the university will not make a mark. And at the same time, you require a good PR. Okay, that is what is required for ranking. So in NRF, we always think, where does your university stand? And every year, we wait for that particular date. And then they say, okay, are you in the top 50 or top 20 or top 100? So sometimes the news is made because only 2 universities from Maharashtra are in top 100. That's a news, right? And there are some, who are not even top 150. So at the same time, and we are comparing the state universities with centrally funded institutions. Okay, so can they be compared in the first place? Okay, and then what about the global ranking and what are the yardsticks they are using? So all these things, and on the top of it, we are talking about GER, the gross enrollment ratio. What about the quality? Is it only the number or quality matters? Okay. So one of the important parameters in this is the autonomy. Since you have stated in your, the letterhead, you are an autonomous college of SNDT. So let us look at autonomy. What is the meaning of this autonomy? Is it related to good governance? Is it open and transparent? Is there an effective collaboration? And how really autonomous you are? Okay, that is one. In all these things, leadership matters. Okay, so for example, in the case of technical institutions, TechWhip made it possible for many deserving institutions to be autonomous. And NEP is talking about it. So autonomy allowed to set new vision, new mission, and the values. And these values must be inclusive, participatory, quality conscious, and open. And autonomy also enabled all institutions to keep track of valuable data and the statistics to compare. In fact, the TechWhip program always asks, statistics, which is to be submitted very next day. And even, when I was handling this, I realized that we have to keep a lot of statistics together, okay? And then because of that autonomy, you can create new infrastructure, research grants, fellowship, and there was a continuous monitoring by this national agency, the state agency as well as national agency. And this is all talked about in NEP. So many universities got this, and ICT became autonomous because of TechWhip. And I always tell World Bank, cite ICT as the example of autonomy, how autonomy could take us to the next level. Okay, and we were just a university department. So we got autonomy under TechWhip in June 2004. We got the topmost score of 68 out of 68 among all 127 institutions. And immediately after that, we applied for deemed university status in 2007. And in all stakeholders supported us. Believe me, interestingly, the state of Maharashtra was the first to support us. Then Mumbai University. Mumbai University was unwilling to give us autonomy, which would have been really ridiculous. But the Vice Chancellor and Pro-Vice Chancellor that time, they were highly progressive and they said, yes, ICT, UDCT then should be autonomous. And what happened? And then we got deemed university status on September 12, 2008. And I became a founding Vice Chancellor. Okay, so you can imagine, you get everything new on the platter and you have to define the new vision, new goal, recruit faculty, get students, develop new programs. So this was very, very interesting. A university department becoming a deemed university, and that also getting a rank and became category 1 university, deemed university in the MHRD or the Department of Ministry of Education's new parameters which were defined in 2018. That helped us because immediately I could establish 2 more campuses. That would not have been possible without autonomy. So ICT is now a research intensive and industry connected unique institutions of its kind, having a brand value of 89 years history. It's a great institution. So supposing you want to increase the research and impact and citation, which is required in the NAC, right? I go as a chairman of this NAC committee to many places. You have to promote multidisciplinary work. You have to promote multi-institutional work. You have to involve multinationals. And that does not happen because strength begets strength. If you are not strong, nobody is going to collaborate with. And at the same time, it has to be a cutting-edge contemporary research. And you must have foreign-trained faculty members. That means your faculty members, you may not have a faculty with PhD degree from abroad, but they can do this in summer. They can go and spend time and in some other universities, foreign universities. And then you can create a pool of teachers from research students who propagate your ideas. For example, in case of Professor C.N.R. Rao or George Whitesides or Robert Langer of MIT, Whitesides of Harvard, they have huge number of students. They have created, in case of Professor C.N.R. Rao, he has not filed patents, but other two have filed huge number of patents. And they have created companies which are billion-dollar companies. And very importantly, in these cases, they have students from different countries and regions. And that is what is required in NEP. So you must open it. According to me, there should be 30% seats should be reserved for students from outside the state, outside your area. That is my personal opinion. The government may not agree, but because ICT had that facility since day one, and that is why we could attract the best of the students across the world. And of course, you have to avoid inbreeding. So the factors which are responsible for institute branding and reputation and international ranking are the reputation of alumni. If I say Mukesh Ambani is my student, immediately you say, okay, is he ICT student? Do you think differently, right? So international standing of the faculty, their promotion of research and innovation and the industry sponsored project. If the industries come to you, we are in Mumbai. A lot of people come from outside the country also. We have a huge number of projects. When Unilever wanted to do research, they came to me and they said, we want to have just 2 projects. Ultimately, that resulted into 17 projects. So you can imagine. So word of mouth is more important than the publicity which we do. Then the industrial consultation. So ICT faculty, they just, they don't use any facility. They charge money. One day they can go. And 2/3 of the money goes to the faculty, 1/3 comes to the institute. So there was a time, quite a few faculty members, almost 15 plus, used to return their salary to the institute. So we could build our, corpus. The quality and diversity of students, the government support. So government, in the case of ICT only, government gave only salaries, not of everybody. There were quite a few, endowment positions. Like I always drew salary from endowment position, even as a vice chancellor, okay? And the placement record. And above all, financial help to needy students. I could create something like 370, scholarship for undergraduate students, ranging from 10,000 to 1,25,000. No questions were asked that you must be financially weak, and your condition was you should pass the examination. So you can recognize these are the brands, brand creating, parameters. And of course, technology development and transfer. So this is what happens. So look at the funding. Funding is the only criteria because universities are not doing well? See, these centrally funded institutions get a lot of funding. So in NIF ranking, you will see that in the top 15, except ICT, every institution is centrally funded institute. That means you have to compete with centrally funded institutions. My personal belief is that they should be liberally funded, but at the same time, others should not be neglected. When you have an NRF ranking, I've said somewhere else, why not fund top 50 in that? Central government should take 10% of the, the institutions which are under state because it's a concurrent subject, right? Central government should, take them and fund them liberally. That is the only way we can create institution of international importance and recognized institution, not other way. You cannot only easy. Unfortunately, state-funded institutions do not get funding. Even they don't get their salaries on time. That is the fact of the matter. And nobody is bothered about that. So we have to look at this so what are the challenges for state universities? Recruiting the best and retaining is the greatest hurdle. Okay, you recruit the best, but you do not retain. Then there is always some sort of ban on recruitment, as if that is the least priority for the government. And higher education is the least priority of all state governments. This is my experience. I've gone to many places in the country, and I find that everybody complains that they are not getting, proper faculty, they are not recruited, they are not allowed to recruit, and all sorts. So I used to say, why not have family as a unit? Supposing your university or institute in a remote place, the husband and wife both are highly educated these days. You cannot have somebody sitting at home, highly educated person. Like in BHU, there are quite a few ladies who are PhDs, but they are housewives. So this has to be, if the spouse is qualified, the management, at least the private management can do that. They can, try to get them a job. Okay, then at the same time, you have to create township where children's education from KG to PG is, then only you can retain that faculty, not otherwise. Of course, avoiding political interference is the greatest challenge for the institution head. But my personal experience, I will tell you, I can tell you publicly, nobody ever asked me to do something. Because I used to tell on the face, sir, it is wrong. And if you tell them politely, they accept it. But if you are going to oblige them by doing something wrong, you will be in trouble. Okay, so anyway, so the actual question for state university is survival. It is not excellence. And we are talking about excellence. We are talking about now. Okay. So what are the changes required in the university system? We have the national policies. We have state-funded institutions. State-funded institutions should be given a lot of encouragement, because all these products coming out of the state university are going to the centrally funded institutions, right? The undergraduate programs in the state-funded colleges, they must be supported. So I always believe that the affiliating system is overburdening. And with frivolous issues, it is a firefighting job for the vice chancellor. Where is the question of leadership, academic leaders? It is just there to do a firefighting. And so this is what happens in the state institutions. So creation of a national or state level roster of academics at entry level, even at VC and director level, should be done. That is my suggestion. That will help us to choose best of the leaders without any interference, political interference. And the choice of the leader should be from that particular field. Now, the other example is, interestingly, is the vice chancellor or the director as inspiring a leader. And so what that vice chancellor or director should do, okay? And can the vice chancellor lead by the example? That is another thing. So what are the opportunities? Opportunities are many, involving industries who need to be given tax benefits under Section 35 of IT Act, as well as the corporate social responsibility. In fact, I had given a talk in, NITI Aayog, and I said that increase this 2% to 3% CSR, because the higher education is neglected and a lot of centers of excellence could be created. And that is where, and the industries also will do it, because a lot of things have happened because of this CSR. Okay. So I think this is one of the things, and that has to be handled by the finance ministry and education ministry. And the institution of eminence, we said 10, and then 20. Why 20? Why not 30, 50? Is it only 10 or 20 institutions are going to take us to the next level in the globally? No, I think that is a foolish idea. At least top 50 in the NRF ranking should be funded, and center should take them under their umbrella. Let state have, their position, but additional positions could be created by the central funding. That is one of the ways under NEP this should be done. And look at China, Korea, Singapore. Finland is the best example. I used to have collaboration with Finnish universities. One of the best educational systems in the world is Finland. So how do we brand universities? Promoting research and innovation, undergraduate research is very important, so which is required. And then cross-disciplinary research, and abolishing the departments. Instead of departments, you may have centers of excellence, and one faculty member can be member of different centers of excellence. And nowadays we are talking about, designers courses. So you can take courses, pick your own degree. You can have that, right? So you may have minor and major, maybe one major degree, two minor degrees. And that minor could be in humanities or economics or whatever. So, and you have to make use of technology in every sphere of activity. Okay. So, and institutions are always bigger than individuals. And if there are people who are like-minded, and everybody can make this contribution. And this particular picture now, yesterday we lost in South Africa, but this was in Australia when the so-called unknown players won that series. So what it means, yes, you can do that. Okay, so let us look at some research on innovation and how do you contribute to national exchange. So you have to have a university's core strength. Supposing you are good at pharmaceuticals, you must concentrate on that. Okay, and others, areas, it does not mean they should not be supported, but that is what will take you to the ranking. Okay, so you must have contemporary subjects, you must have connectivity with industry and application-oriented research. And there has to be some industrial application, but at the same time, there has to be an academic punch. So you have to create new knowledge, and that academic punch has to be there. And then you compare yourself with leading universities. So the competition will be there. It could be local, it could be departmental, it could be university, within the state or national level. So what it means that think globally and act locally. And at the same time, the universities must solve the local problems. Then only the industry will accept them as consultants or otherwise. I've given some statistics here. Why United States is a global leader in research and innovation. The only reason, without going into the details of this, this is PwC report, I can tell you that the universities have a great role in USA, and I will give you some statistics. So if you look at the world in 2050, India GDP may go to 30 trillion. Okay, it was only 8.7 trillion. So you can imagine that we have to go miles, in fact. And we are competing with China. So what is going to happen? So if you compare yourself, is funding the only problem? No. The quality of research, the IPR, the intellectual property rights, and the innovation and creation and maintenance of infrastructure. Many times you get government grant, but you cannot maintain the equipment. So, what I did, I said in my case, I used to ask the equipment manufacturer to maintain it for 7 years and give the person also. So that is inbuilt cost, right? So otherwise, UGC earlier used to give 5% grant for maintenance of equipment. That is all gone now. It is history. So only centrally funded institutions get. The state funded institutions do not get anything for maintenance of the infrastructure. So it is very, very important. Creation of the state-of-the-art facility is very important. My personal belief is that all databases, leading databases on research, patent, retro, abstract should be freely available to everybody within the country, whether they belong to, government institutions or private institutions. You cannot compete with the world if you do not have access to the latest information, and that is coming at an alarming speed. And see, government's refusal to support public funded databases and e-resources will be counterproductive. Now in FlipNet, Indus, etc., 4 or 5 years ago, I faced this problem. My library used to have 3 crore budget, and the government stopped all that funding. So you can imagine these state-funded institutions have all these problems. So we have these haloed institutions like MIT, Harvard, Stanford, UC Berkeley, Chicago, Caltech. University of Chicago has the maximum number of Nobel laureates. And then also you look at Cambridge, Oxford, ETH, Zurich, and on the eastern side, NUS, National University, Singapore. So we have to understand why they are revered, what is the magic, what lessons we can learn, and do Indian University have the desire and capacity to do this? And how do we capacity building? So we have to have this, research excellence I mentioned. And so to increase the research impact and citations, you must do the multidisciplinary, multi-institutional research. And you have to create a pool of teachers from research students who propagate your ideas and having students from different regions. Okay, so this already I told you. So what can be done in India to be ranked? Looking at the best performing universities, you have to derive inspiration. You have to create adjunct professorships. You can get professors from other institutions From industry, you must have sabbaticals in industry or take industry people on sabbatical. Bringing at least 10% of the state university under the Ministry of Education, supporting libraries and accessibility to databases, removing barriers on recruitment of faculty and students. Okay, summer, internship for students and faculty. And I personally believe that we should have a trimester system. The semester system is outdated, and I have tried it, and trimester system is a very good system. Recruitment of faculty of high caliber and asking them to do postdoctoral research in famous labs or universities abroad, and international collaboration. Okay, so one example I will give you is Susan Hugfield, with a medical doctor. She is the first lady president of MIT. So what she said, the universities are the engines of economic growth. And she had, MIT is highly haloed institutions. She generated $3 billion, but she went across departments, schools within MIT, within Boston area. Boston has something like 32 plus universities. Okay, so she went beyond the MIT brand. What it means, you may be the best, but you have to go beyond your brand. That is the lesson we learn. So look at this, interesting facets. GDP of USA in 2020 was $20.54 trillion. And in 1970, they were not different from us. They were at the same level. China, India, this is China, and this is China, and this is, USA. So what happened? And you will see that, and all of a sudden, there were two tipping points, one in 1974 and another in 1974, that was the oil embargo, the OPEC countries. And 75, this is the revolution of biotechnology, okay? So United States went ahead of everybody else. And why? What was the reason? That these two things happened. One in the western side and another is the eastern side. That is the Silicon Valley and the Gene Town, that is Boston. These two universities, Stanford and MIT, contributed to technologies, which is, the GDP was 1/3 of the GDP of USA. That means the universities can do that. So you can see that the Stanford and MIT, they did it. So what it means, behind every innovation hub lies a great university. Is your university one of them? Can you do something like that? This is where government must, help universities to develop and recruit good faculty, students from across the country, outside and whatnot. So HRD has done something regarding the recruitment of foreign students. That is good. So yes, so look at these two. IPR is a wealth creation. Bob Langer of MIT and George Whitesides, look, he created 24 companies, more than 800 patents. These are billionaire professors. And Ginzam is the company which is of George Whitesides. Imagine these kind of things, why we cannot allow that in our country. And so, George Whitesides had come to ICT on 3 occasions and give lectures. We are very fascinating professor. We should learn something from this. So how can we improve the arts of the industry? That means we have to provide, them with, scale-up procedures. Industry needs that. We have to collaborate with industry. It is not, and it is a win-win situation. So let us do that. And if you look at the IPR generation, this is, you see, University of California system, you look at the number of patents and the revenue which it generates. Very interestingly, 76% of these innovators are foreign born. That means they are open to new culture and new students from across the world. Are we doing that? Suppose we open our universities to outside students, our university will flourish. This is what the patent data from USA students. So why universities don't do what companies do? Because there is an uncertainty, there is a non-marketability, there could be some spillover, and publications are valued more than the patents. So that is what is happening. That is why our universities are not being ranked in the top 100 or whatever. And so so what the problems faced by IPR, commercialization, a lot of universities are investing on protecting the IP. So it is a lot of money. Actually, you have to have a separate budget. And therefore, if the IP is not utilized, then you are just going on paying. It's a lot of money. Actually, international patent, 2 lakh rupees per year. Okay, so it is a lot of money. So you can see, so this is what happened. So why there are challenges of universities, in generating IPR? Because there is a large gap between the university and the market. And so there is a link missing. And what is important is the missing technology transfer office or technology licensing office. All universities must have it if you want to survive and give tough competition with the Western world. So these are then only, and the IP has to be also valorized. How do you valorize the IP? Okay, so one of the things is through technology transfer. So you transfer your technology, that is number one. And then by licensing, you license to somebody else, or you transfer your property rights, or have joint ventures. You can have JVs, or have the university startup. Now the government is talking a lot in NEP about startups and the incubation. And the last but not the least is through patent enforcement. You may have a patent, but somebody is misusing that patent. So instead of litigation, which is time consuming and costly in our country, litigation can go for years, can we enforce that through negotiation? And that is what has been done in the University of Wisconsin, one of the best examples where they get a lot of money. So yes, you can have the commercialization. So universities can file patent applications, and also you get royalties and the reimbursement of the cost of university's patent. And you can have exclusive licenses or non-exclusive license. So that means you must have a patent office, technology transfer office. That has to be done. And then you can transfer your rights. And through joint ventures, faculty members can be allowed to have joint ventures. In our country, it is a new concept. So this has to be done, and NEP talks about it. Okay, and so because of the commercialization, university researchers are keen to shift to their research from university lab to business lab. During this COVID period, a lot of these small, universities and colleges came up with ideas, and they did not cost much money, but yes, they could do it. So startup company is another idea. Okay, and the startup can be a subsidiary of the university, where the university can have a stake, that they can have a equity in that. That is what is important. And patent enforcement, I mentioned about that. Apple paid $234 million to University of Wisconsin for their A7 processor, which was their property. But they used it and they claimed it. But instead of going to a litigation, they settled and they got $234 million. Okay. So what is the evolution of university technology? One of the technology transfer, data-rich sectors, artificial intelligence, machine learning, these technologies will be used in all sectors, including education. Okay? And the healthcare, another sector will be healthcare. And medical knowledge is doubling every 73 days. Yet, we are barely scratching the surface of the utilizing this data. There are huge data which are available. For instance, on COVID itself. Okay? So academic, patents and research commercialization, you must have this technology transfer after. And perhaps this is the biggest opportunities for universities to commercialize their patents and make money. So the external earning to the government funding, this ratio has to be more than 2-3, then only the universities will survive and they do well. That is very important, okay? So what can be, so we have to do that. This is what, so I'm giving last example of ICT Mumbai. So ICT alumni contribute about 8% to the Indian exchequer, okay? And so when I took over, my idea was to be in the top 100 universities in the world. You can imagine, you may say you are a crazy person. At first to have in the top 500 and generate something like 3,500 crore rupees. I did collect 1,800 crore, I must tell you that. But it was a Herculean task. It doesn't happen overnight. Yes. And so how was the excellence achieved by ICT? It has not only national character, but international character. Industries help us. We have produced more than 700 first generation entrepreneurs. Okay, a lot of philanthropists help us. There is a spirit of entrepreneurship. There are some PhD students who have become entrepreneurs. And one of the students, his company used to make something like turnover was 15 crore. So you can imagine. And we have compassion for our non-teaching staff and their family, and alumni have always helped ICT. So this is one of the best examples. And at the same time, we concentrated on our sectorial excellence. So since we were allied with chemicals and pharmaceuticals and whatnot, everything was relevant on that, okay? Relevant to that. And we have been always thinking globally and acting locally. So we always have, we have more than 110 adjunct professors coming from various places. More than 21 are international professors who come every year. So it is not just a chemical technology institute. We deal with chemicals, biologicals, materials, food, energy, and whatnot. And so it has an unparalleled record, and only land of 16 acres. Now, we have got land of 103 acres in Bhubaneswar and another 200 acres in Jalna. So these two campuses are going to enrich us. And the beauty is that we have produced 3 Padma Vibhushans, 8 Padma Bhushans, 8 Padma Shris, and 2 Fellows of Royal Society, among only 4 engineering fellows of Royal Society. And I already mentioned that 8% of GDP is created by ICT alumni. So we have a main campus in Mumbai. The Bhubaneswar campus is entirely supported by Indian Oil. So that is why we named it as IOC campus. And Marathwada campus is supported by Maharashtra government. Thanks are due to Indian Oil and Maharashtra government at that time, Sri Devendra Fadnavis. And see how many courses we have. During my time, I started 23 new programs. We have this integrated MTech, which is a trimester system. Every alternate term, the student goes to industry and he's paid. And some of these students have even filed patents. So you can imagine. Then we have this so-called executive MTech program where IIT Kharagpur is a partner with us. In fact, in Bhubaneswar, we are using their property for the time being. Now only we have got land. So you can imagine a state-funded institution, deemed university at that, being joined hands by an institution of eminence like IIT Kharagpur. So yes, why? And there is a lot of freedom given to the faculty. In fact, the busiest persons are also always available for doing something. So it is very easy for you to say that I'm busy. I never gave up my research. I produced 107 PhDs till today, 135 masters, 47 and 495 papers, 113 granted patents. It's not 52, 113 granted patents. That means I was always busy, and that is why, even though I have retired, I'm always in demand. I'm doing so many things. So that means there is a, and all Inspire fellows, I gave them PhDs. Ramanujan fellows, I gave them PhD. Faculty Richard fellows, I gave them PhD. Largest number of UGC faculty, faculty is in ICT. So, and they always cite that. So I used to say to my colleague, how many PhDs you can guide? If young person comes, give that fellow a chance. That is how we could increase our PhDs. So we should have more than 700 PhDs on the campus. So this is what is happening. And we generated a lot of IP. And this IPR, has been utilized and given. Okay. So my model is 3P model: patent, publish, and prosper. Okay. That is the model. And the courses are related to energy, environment, food, health, water, waste, wealth, sewage, entrepreneurship. And we share the IPR. We say 50-50. If the industry supports us, 50% they will have. And suppose they don't want to practice it, we can sell it and share the profit. So that is a very interesting concept. And the government of India's missions are chemical centric, whether it is Swachh Bharat, Swasthya Bharat, Namami Gange, and all those programs. ICT has a lot of role, and ICT has got many projects in there. So why it happens? Because ideas thrive on freedom to practice. Okay, so there is a culture of innovation, and we practice that innovation. We allow our students to do work. And the nurturing excellence comes through these 4 pillars. That is faculty, students, support, and alumni. ICT alumni are the greatest strength of ICT. Okay, that is what I can tell you. And these are some of these Padma awardees. Okay, and these superstars. And I on the board of management we had Mukesh Ambani and Anji Reddy and whatnot. And Narottam Saxeri of Ambuja, Madhukar Parekh of Pidilite, And so, and since we did it, so you can see that, and what we did on our board of governors, there are more people from outside than inside. There is a chancellor's nominee, distinguished alumni, and industry association, and we are governed by UGC and not by the State University Act. That is one of the blessings given to ICT. And what important thing here, I must tell you that the vice chancellor has to be a fellow of 2 National Academy minimum, and the chancellor also has to be, highly decorated Padma Award. That is the condition in the constitution itself. So we could avoid, interference by outside agencies. Okay, and the internal members are only 5, external members are 7. And you see, these are the new programs which were started during my time. And we have fellowship for everybody, every student who's ever joined. Okay, so ICT is now a multi-campus deemed to be university. And I will come to my last slide. Okay, and these 2 campuses, this campus was inaugurated by the Honorable President of India. And this is, you can see that the IIT Kharagpur is a partner in this. Okay. And so personally, I did a lot of work with hydrogen, which is being talked a lot. And so this is where, you can see that personally, I have been working in this area and I can produce hydrogen at less than $1. So I did not abandon my research, although I was a, academic as well as administrator. So yes, so finally, I will, so the goal is not to live forever, but to create something that will, that is based on the Bhagavad Gita concept. So academic institutions must concentrate on generating new knowledge, cross-disciplinary research and collaborations at national and international level. The leadership and management will decide the future of the universities and not the governments. My personal belief is government should not interfere. IPR is a wealth. No idea is a bad idea unless it is proven otherwise. Patent requires an ecosystem and encouragement from the management. All colleges and universities must teach IPR to all students like environmental courses. Not all patents make money, but some can block others' entry into the business through technology transfer. Commercialization can be achieved by licensing, by transferring property rights, through joint ventures, universities start from incubation, and through patent enforcement. So finally, I must thank my students, a large number of students from across the country. So this is some of them who are there. You can see that. So 107 PhDs came out of my lab. 115 patents are granted till yesterday. 491 papers. And I was also ranked as 0.2% in the world in physical chemistry area. Although I'm a chemical engineer, I'm counted in physical chemistry, and my rank was number 66 for the last 2 years. And I'm rated as number 1 in India in physical chemistry. So ultimately, I must tell you that no academic should say that he's very busy. He must love teaching. He must do research. He must encourage his students to research and innovation. And ideas prosper where there is a freedom. And that freedom must start with the top, the head of the institute must see that. Thank you very much.